Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you this fine Saturday afternoon?
Oh, James, I'm doing just peachy. How are you, my friend? How are you?
Man, not doing too bad today. Not doing too bad. So
Not bad.
taking
Hey,
baby steps in the right direction.
Yeah, if you didn't notice already, we do have a new intro. We posted those options on our Facebook page. There were two options, option A, option B. We went with the one that seemed to have the most traction and the most feedback through both comments, likes, and DMs. So we appreciate you guys checking that out. Also, stick around for the surprise new outro. It is different from what we had before and different from either of the intros. So listen to the whole podcast. Don't skip ahead. That's rude. We have a lot to talk about today because, James, it's schedule release time.
That's it, buddy. But before we get too crazy into the schedule release, the Steelers did release a player as well. Offensive tackle Kellen Deitch. He was a practice squad player last year, formerly of Arizona State, I believe.
Yep, seems about right. Didn't know who he was.
Yeah, tall guy, short arms, not real big around. And
Shocking.
yeah, one of those things where he wasn't long enough as far as arm length to be real effective as a tackle, and way too tall to stick inside a guard, especially when your starting quarterback is 5'11".
I feel like my arms are long. If you're watching on YouTube, you're getting
so
a show.
long, Cody.
You can't see them. I mean, at all.
Your arm length is like Queso's weight. It's just enormous.
Wow. Okay. Oh my Lanta, that was rude. Wow.
I said it's good, bud. That was a good compliment.
It was rude to Queso. It was rude to Queso.
He's big. It's his own fault.
He is a big dude. He's funny.
He's hilarious.
He is. In other news, before we get to the schedule release, Cam Hayward is currently not attending voluntary OTAs. Now, this is because he's looking for a contract extension. He's also a veteran in the league. He's also a stand-up. I mean, he's, Walter Payton Man of the Year. He's basically the guy. Pittsburgh's not going to expect him not to show up. I don't see him pulling any kind of Le'Veon Bell. And I also see us actually coming to terms and getting him on an extension that will also help the cap hit. I think he has a cap hit of what? 20 mil this year?
It's big. Yeah, it's the highest.
I think might be 22
throughout his career. So yeah. It's a large number. I agree with you. I think there's absolutely no reason not to extend Cam Hayward. Last year was the first year in a long time that he didn't have gaudy numbers, but he missed half the season, and when he did play, he was playing on one leg.
Yep.
So you can't really hold last year's numbers against him. And study by Alex Kozora, again, because he's the GOAT with this stuff. He had the lowest yards allowed per run average per Steelers defender while on the field last year. And that's while playing injured the whole year. So, yeah, better run defender than everybody. Leg. I don't care that he's 35 years old. Ink him up as long as you can. And honestly, I don't think he's going to be too crazy. I think that he's going to be pretty understanding that his value should not be what it was previously. And he just wants to play a few more years. So let him play a few more years. Let him stack on a few more sacks. See if he can't get in the Pro Bowl once or twice more and pad his resume to get into the fame once his career is over. But no reason to move on from Cam. Awesome player, awesome person off the field with everything he does with his philanthropic work. And honestly, you couldn't ask for a better mentor for these young guys. And that's what it's all about now, is getting that the next generation of young guys ready to take over for the next 10 years. We already got one piece in place with Keanu Benton. You never know if any of these other young guys, if any of them can kind of turn the corner and be that guy along with Keanu Benton. You hope so. They got a lot better chance while they've got Cam Hayward there to learn from.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think Cam will be back in time for training camp. I don't see them holding out too long. There's also a chance they're waiting to see what they can do. I did see a post. I'm not sure the accuracy of it. That Pittsburgh did reach out to former Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas. So that's interesting. Maybe they're waiting to see the cap hit that could take. Pittsburgh is very much trying to pull in another veteran wide receiver. I think they want more of a speedy guy, but Michael Thomas coming in would be a huge improvement to the wide receiver room. Even if he plays at 50% of what he was. I mean, he was a phenomenal receiver. Played a long time with Drew Brees, had great numbers with him. So would hope that he could come on and do some things with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, depending. So we'll see how that goes. Now, speaking of Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, let's talk about the schedule release. We're going to go over preseason first. It's not as important, but to James and I, it's still very important. This is the only time truly that we feel that the young guys get a chance in a game, the no names, to make a name for themselves. The NFL very much, I saw an interview during the draft process or before with on the Pat McAfee show or on ESPN that Roger Goodell was being interviewed, and he hates the preseason. And of course he does, because the tickets are half price or less than half price or whatever. But
attendance is low.
But I think, quite frankly, for the diehard football fans, that's some of the funnest football to watch, because you're getting to watch no names fight for a position on a team, fight to make the start of their story, the start of their career happen with that team or another team that's watching the film from them. That's truly
it's so integral too to like the development of the back end of the roster.
Yep.
Like a lot of these teams sit here right now, it's the middle of May, and they know who the first 40 to 45 guys are going to be on the roster. They already know. It's already locked.
Yep.
But those last 10 to 15 guys are still in flux, and the way you find out is the preseason. Otherwise, you're just, okay, we drafted you, so I guess you're on the team. Like, you have nothing to go off of whether or not they can handle NFL skill.
Yep. And some of it's even stage fright, or like the anxiety that you could get from being on the primetime TV or just on TV in general, or on the field with all the fans. Like, that's a small taste of what it's really like. And don't get me wrong, they've played in college, but I think it's just drastically different. The stage is different. Everything's different about it. And quite frankly, I think that you would be hurting the game of football as a whole if you took out the preseason. Now, obviously, we have these other leagues that maybe that's their reasoning of like, hey, we have these other, leagues now that players can use to develop. But I just still enjoy the preseason. So, anyways,
yeah, and it doesn't help those late round draft picks and guys from the practice squad. Those guys never get a chance to get on the active roster if you don't have preseason games. I feel like it's just imminent. Eventually, we're going to be 2 preseason games and 18 regular season games, but I pray they never get rid of those 2 preseason games.
But we're going to get a 3-day weekend for Super Bowl weekend, and I'm okay with it. That was the big sell. That's the big sell that Roger Goodell was talking about, because it's that following weekend that the Super Bowl would be on is a holiday weekend. So we would get a 3-day weekend. Most people, not everyone, would be off on Monday. I probably wouldn't be, but whatever.
That would be tremendous, because otherwise I get up at 3:30 in the morning on Mondays. So
yeah, after watching the Super Bowl and a 30-minute halftime show and everything. Yeah. And
I didn't even get to watch the whole Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
So
whatever. But yeah, so preseason, Friday, August 9th, Pittsburgh starts the preseason at home against Houston, 7 p.m. So that will be a game against Houston. Obviously, Houston, a team that absolutely demolished us last year when they shouldn't have. Early on in the year, we really thought we were going to have that win, and they torched us up early and often with C.J. Stroud at the helm. Yeah. So that'll be an interesting preseason game to watch.
Yep, before we had our secondary having some answers, at the point it was Levi Wallace and Pat Pete, and they were just getting torched pretty badly. Bleeding slowed down quite a bit once Joey Porter Jr. got his starting role.
Yep. The following Saturday, August 17th, Pittsburgh will host the Buffalo Bills at 7 p.m. again, same time. Buffalo coming in. We're probably not going to see a whole lot of Josh Allen that game. Probably going to see a lot of Justin Fields that game. Which I'm excited for. A lot of Jaylen Warren, some third string running backs. Excited to see how that plays. And typically, you see your starters less as the preseason goes on, so that's just kind of to be expected. James, the third week is not determined yet. We don't know when that's playing.
No official date yet, but the opponent set the Detroit Lions. It'll be in Detroit, so that should be a good hard-nosed battle. The team there is definitely one being groomed around that tough mentality, kneecap biting reputation is the head coach there. So look for that to be a good opportunity to find out exactly how tough some of these rookies and back of the roster guys are. So that should be a good test for those last few spots. By then, you probably only have 4 or 5 spots that are really in question as to who's going to be in those final positions on the roster. So that'll really help you narrow it down. Now, the opening game of the year, Cody, there were a few stories that made a lot of sense.
Yep.
This is one of them.
Yep.
This is one of them. So Pittsburgh going to Atlanta to play the Atlanta Falcons week 1. It's a 1:00 game on Sunday. Arthur Smith going against his previous team that he was just the head coach of. They'll be ready for him.
Yeah, they will.
The Haywards love playing down there too, by the way.
That they do. That's where their dad played.
Never forget Connor getting that touchdown.
And the same way that his dad got a touchdown too, which was crazy. The following week, another storyline. They want to get these storylines out quick. And I think they realize how quick Russell Wilson could potentially lose his starting job to Justin Fields because we will be going to Denver in week 2 on the 15th and play a 4:25 kickoff. Now, this is all Eastern Standard Time that we're going off of. So 4:25 kick at Denver. Pittsburgh and Russell Wilson will be playing his former team that he just left on not so good terms. But hey, we better shake all the hands we can there because they're paying his dang salary. So we'll take it.
That's it, right? That's it. So that's going to be a big game for Russ. He's going to have everything to prove highly. They're also very comfortable with what they feel his weaknesses are.
Yep.
So expect them to be very aggressive against him. And that is your first opportunity where if he looks not so great, you might see Mike Tomlin consider putting Fields out there for a few plays.
Yep.
Now, week 3, we're getting to our first home game. That's right. First 2 games are away. Third game is the very first home game for the Steelers this year against the Chargers. We're talking about a Sunday 1:00 game. No surprise there. So finally getting the opportunity to play somebody in Acrisure Stadium. Week after that, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, another Sunday 1:00 game, and back to being away. Should have Anthony Richardson back at the helm there for the Colts, right, Cody? So quite the exciting player who missed most of his rookie year with an injury. So he's should be back in the saddle. Another one of those Cam Newton types, very athletic, very strong arm.
Yep.
We'll see what he's able to do, but he was looking pretty promising before that injury.
Yep. And then the following week on Sunday, October 6th, it will be a primetime game Sunday night. We will play the Dallas Cowboys, playing a trashy team on a trashy day. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Sundays are trashy?
No, just
wow,
October 6th.
bro.
But
Wow.
no, go and that Dallas will be at home, so that'll be a very interesting game. That's probably one of the games when I look at the schedule next year that I'm tempted on requesting off and going to. That would be a fun game. My cousin's a Dallas fan, and just kind of being in that atmosphere would be really fun. Primetime games are fun. We went to one.
Right?
Yeah, Zach.
Mr. Nesselhoff?
Mr. Nesselhoff himself, the newlywed. Congratulations to you, sir, and your beautiful
Zach.
bride. I hope you guys had a lovely day. I'm sorry that I couldn't come. Work was not cooperative right now. Dealing with the shortage of people that want to work, James. You know how it is.
Oh yeah.
But no, that'll be a fun game and real exciting. And we went to a primetime game against Buffalo a few years ago, so which was a lovely time. So, James,
speaking of a shortage of people wanting to work, we go to Los Angeles after that.
Los Angeles
to play or Las Vegas. To play the
I was like,
Raiders.
wait a second.
Going to Vegas to play the Raiders. If you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago how I'd feel about a game going into this, I told you the same thing. Steelers always find a way to lose the Raiders. Not in the last couple of years. Kenny Pickett was able to overcome that obstacle that Ben never was able to. So you're kind of at a fresh start. Unfortunately, Russell Wilson in his 4 appearances against the Raiders, he only played in 3 of them, started in 3 of them, lost all 4. So he did not do well against the Raiders himself. But I don't really look at them as a super menacing team. So that is something that should favor Pittsburgh pretty well. Now, the next week, week 7, this is back to Acrisure Stadium, another Sunday night game at 8:20 versus the New York Jets. Will we still have Aaron Rodgers at this point? Injured? Is he healthy? What's he look like now? He's got to be what, like 42, 40 years old. He's there, man.
Yeah,
He's
gonna
no
be up
spring
there.
chicken anymore. So how has he recovered from this injury from the last year, or the Achilles injury? That's a heck of an injury to try to come back from. So
Oh, absolutely.
be very interested to see what we've got with him on that game. And by then, we'll have a pretty good idea on how he plays in the previous games leading up to that. So,
Yep.
Yeah, that's something that we need to know by then.
Definitely.
Following week, the New York Jets, also in Acrisure Stadium, Cody.
Instead of us going to New York 2 weeks, actually New Jersey, but that's beside the point. They come to us 2 weeks in a row. So we get the Jets, then we get the Giants on primetime Monday Night Football. Excited for that game. Daniel Jones has a very interesting start of his year this year. Daniel Jones is playing, I think his first 2 games should be very easy, not easy wins, but expectable wins with how much you're paying your starting quarterback. I think he plays Atlanta as well, week 2, and then I can't remember who else he plays. Maybe I don't remember, but anyways, just gonna be interesting to see how that storyline plays out, and if Daniel Jones still has that starting job. You have to imagine he will, but that pay, $40 million a year or whatever it is, it's ungodly. But I'm excited to see what our defensive front specifically can do to Daniel Jones. He's quick. He's fast. He runs out of his shoes sometimes. He falls down, but he's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about the nicest thing you can say about him. He's been pretty erratic thus far in his career. So the following week from the New York Giants, we finally get a bye. It's week 9, dang near right in the middle of the season.
Finally.
This is one of the things I'm very happy
Finally.
about. A week 9 bye is great. That gives you a good time to recuperate. And one thing that you're going to notice here as we continue about this, one thing we haven't talked about yet, 8 weeks into this season, is any division opponents. And it's not going to change in week 10, where we have our 9th opponent, the Washington Commanders, and we will be traveling there to play them in their home field.
Yep.
So there you are, week 10, still 0 division opponents. This is not a very favorable schedule for Pittsburgh at all. It is very loaded in the
End of
back
the year.
half,
But
and lighter in the front half.
I will argue that is favorable for us because it often takes us time to figure our crap out.
Yeah, but if we take too long to figure things out and lose
That's fair.
yeah, we need a fast start again like last year, where they're 3-1 or something to jump right out of the gates. So the Washington Commanders scare me that much. That's going to be your final game. That's kind of a possible breeze. I don't want to say any game is a breeze, but that one has the potential to be one. Then week 11 at home, we've got the Baltimore, and this starts the murderer's row
4 in a row
of opponents. 4 games in a row of
divisional opponents.
One team we're playing 2 times within a 3-week stretch. So pretty ridiculous, very favorable for these teams, not favorable for the Steelers at all. We're the only one with this kind of schedule in the division. The rest of them got it spread out real well.
Outside of Cleveland having us in 3 weeks, the same that we obviously have them. But yeah, their divisional games are drastically spread out.
Yeah, they got some Ravens and Bengals going season as to where we don't have that at all. Yep. And it's not uncommon for Pittsburgh to be a little bruised up after these games against the Ravens due to cheap shots typically. But we'll see how that plays out. That's a 1:00 game, and then going into a Thursday game against the Browns. So that is a very unfavorable thing where we're used to having injured players after playing the Ravens and then only getting a 3-day rest before playing the Browns.
And that's the Baltimore game is also a kind of revenge game as well because we have Patrick Queen, their former starting middle linebacker. So
expect them to take cheap shots at Patrick Queen.
Yep.
Expect that.
Like you said, Thursday Night Football against Cleveland at Cleveland. And then we go right into the following week playing the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. And then again, going back to play Cleveland. Actually, Cleveland's coming to Pittsburgh this time on the following Sunday, and those two games are 1:00 games against the Bengals and the Browns. And then after that, you have a weird 4-game stretch with two division rivals still, because we got to finish out the Ravens and the Bengals. And then you also throw in two teams that in the past, 3 years have been to the Super Bowl. And one is the reigning Super Bowl champion.
Yeah. Two of the, I would say, best 4 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, drastically.
At the end of our schedule here.
So,
so after that Browns game, we've got the Eagles going to Philadelphia for that matchup. Has not been a favorable matchup for Pittsburgh the last few years. Obviously, things are a little bit different on both of the rosters now.
Yep.
So could it change? Who knows? Will it be poor weather by then? Yes. Will that favor teams who have the better running game? Possibly. I think both teams have a really good running game now.
they do.
With big mauling offensive linemen. So it's going to be really important that defensive linemen are stout by that time of year. So hopefully Cam's not banged up. Hopefully Keanu Benton is still healthy at that time of year.
Yep.
Because we're going to need them big time. Following that Eagles game, going back to Baltimore to play the Baltimore Ravens.
On Saturday.
This is a Saturday 4:30 matchup.
And then we play 4 days later on Christmas.
On Christmas Day at home versus the Chiefs, which is my least favorite one of all of them. And not because of the opponent. I could care less of the opponent. What I don't like about this, Cody, is that they didn't need to do Christmas Day games. And now that they're making this a Netflix only game, unless you're in the Pittsburgh market or in the Kansas City market, so that's basically within like 20 miles of the city, you got to watch it on Netflix.
Yep.
Not everyone's family members have Netflix. This is literally going to put people in a situation where they have to choose between their family and watching the game because of Netflix.
Yep. Now, don't get me wrong.
hate that.
Netflix is fairly cheap. Even if you bought it 1 month, it's like $12 or $13. But it's still dumb. It's still stupid.
But they're not going to. Like, family members of mine that don't have Netflix, that have people over for Christmas, are not going to do it so I can watch the game on Christmas Day.
Yep.
They're going to tell me to lump it up, and I'm going to say,
You're going to watch it on your phone. You're going to watch it on your phone. Like,
I'll see you at 4:30, you know? And then I'm going to be the jack off because I want to watch the Steelers game instead of be around my family on Christmas.
Well, James,
I already see myself being painted like a complete jerk because I want to watch the Steelers game, and it's a 1:00 on Christmas Day. And all the friends or all the family members of mine that will hold Christmas don't have Netflix.
But here's the thing that gets me, and I understand where you're at with that completely. Luckily, my family will more than likely have the game on, which is fine. But we go from a Sunday game to playing a Saturday game, a short week after playing Philly.
Short week.
And then we go from playing Saturday to playing Wednesday, which is
super short.
4 days. You'll have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to rest. 3 days. You have 3 days to rest and plan for the next game, which is against the reigning Super Bowl champions.
And both of these short weeks are after Ravens games.
Yep.
The team most notorious for their cheap shots versus the Steelers.
Yep.
Them and the Bengals, of course, but
yeah. Well, listen, the Bengals game could be a short week too. Who knows? Maybe we play that. I don't know how they're going to do that. Because the Cincinnati game is to be determined. We don't know when we play Cincinnati in week 18.
It'll be a week and a half. Yeah.
So we get a long rest before we get to murder Joe Burrow and take out all of our anger and aggression for the crappy year on him.
And apparently, Joe Burrow and Patrick Queen were teammates in college, and at one point during practice, Joe Burrow punched Patrick Queen in the face.
We need that. Keep
that in mind. I like the chippiness that Mr. Queen might have for that.
Yep. So James, I'm gonna go over my way too early prediction for this year. And I'm gonna put it up on the screen just in case you can see it. This is my prediction. So I'm gonna go over it here real quick. I have us starting the year off with 5 wins in a row. At Atlanta, at Denver, home against the Chargers, at Indianapolis, and home against the Cowboys. I just think Dak Prescott's not going to perform very well in that primetime game. And then we have 2 unexpected losses, because that's just how Pittsburgh freaking works, against the Raiders and the Jets. Now, you can say unexpected. The Jets, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, is a very, very potent team, especially with Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. Like they're not the Jets of butt fumble Mark Sanchez. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot more potential there for those Jets. And then I have us getting a win going into the bye week against the New York Giants, and then coming out and getting 3 wins in a row against Washington, Baltimore, and Cleveland before taking another loss to Cincinnati. I have us beating Cleveland again. I have us sweeping Cleveland next year because that's just been a normal somewhat. And then I have us surprisingly getting a win against the Eagles. I think Jason Kelce was the foundation of that front offensive line. Don't get me wrong, they're still a very talented team, but I think Jason Kelce really held that together, and I hope at that point they haven't figured it all out yet. Because they draft a rookie center, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong?
I'm not sure who they picked up.
That's okay. We'll look into that later. But then I have us taking 2 losses in a row against Baltimore and the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas Day, which will really suck, but that is what it is. And then I have us ending the year with a win against Cincinnati. So that puts us at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 and 5 is my record for the year. So again, we split the division games with Baltimore and Cincinnati and sweep Cleveland in my predictions here. So James, I don't know if you want to share your predictions right now or not, but that was just mine personally.
I think to me, it's tough because I see different.
Say that all again. You're cutting out.
Okay, so I look at different positions on the team to try to determine, is it a better team? Is it a worse team? Is it a similar for, right? So quarterback, I think this is a step in the right direction. I think we've got better quarterback play, should expect better quarterback play with the 2 guys brought in at the top there. Running back play, it's a draw, so shouldn't be any better or worse. Wide receiver room, I would say, is a step backwards because they just haven't replaced Deontay Johnson with a high enough level guy yet. That could go in the right direction later on, but it will depend completely on the development of Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III. If they can turn that corner and really take the next couple of steps, this could end up long-term better. But right now, you have to kind of say missing the Pro Bowl wide receiver, probably a worse move. Wash at tight end because that didn't change. Offensive line, I feel like, is a big step in the correct direction.
Yep. Doesn't mean we'll see that immediately, but yeah.
Yeah. Defensive line, basically the same. Outside linebackers, the same. And again, that's a huge positive mark for Pittsburgh that it's the same there. I'm not counting the possible loss of Marcus Golden, although he's a completely unrestricted free agent right now and could come back to the team. Yep. I'm not really counting that as a negative because I think Nick Herbig will do just as well, if not better, as the number 3 this year. Middle linebacker, huge step in the right direction, in my opinion, with the addition of Patrick Queen, the drafting of Peyton Wilson. And then you get to corner, and corner could be a step in the wrong direction also. So I'm very concerned about that. I think Joey Porter Jr. established as the number 1 guy, but the 2 guys after him right now are going to be Don Jackson, who we just traded for, who's coming off of a couple of not very good seasons, and then Anthony Averett, who is basically 1 step out of the league. And then it's a bunch of 6th, 7th round guys and undrafted guys. Tough to put a lot of high value stock in that. Back to the safety position, I think that's a step in the right direction as well. I valued Deshaun Elliott higher than what Keanu Neal was, and everything else is the same. So there's a lot of areas of the team that I do believe are better than last year, and some really crucial ones like wide receiver and corner that could possibly be worse. And that's very worrisome for me.
Yep.
No, very much so. So I have Pittsburgh going 10-7 again. I think if they get some development out of the wide receiver room or still make another addition to the team that's not on there right now, like say you bring in Michael Thomas like we talked about before, sounds like there's some interest there. I think he would be an improvement at the number 2 wide receiver position, and enough that I'd be comfortable even bumping him to 11-6 off of that singular addition. And then the corner room, I think they're not going to be looking for anyone else outside of what they've got right now. But does Corey Trice step up and become a guy that can take over as the number 2? Does the rookie Ryan Watts step up and prove that he can take on a heavier responsibility? These are the big questions that can make a large difference in what this team looks like over the course of the year.
Beanie Bishop.
Beanie Bishop, you never know.
Never know. Never know.
You never know. That's the kind of guy that I like preseason games for, because you're going to get to see a big dose of Beanie Bishop.
Yep.
And people are like, who the hell is Beanie Bishop? He's an undrafted guy out of West Virginia who has the prototypical size that you'll love to see in a nickel corner and extreme athleticism that we've never seen out of a nickel corner.
Yep. Gotta love it. Excited to see it.
It's what's fun about the season. It's so much unknown. There's a lot to look forward to. And I'm excited for it, man. It's all right around the corner. So much with the next few steps of organized team activities and mini camps and all that stuff right around the corner now. So going to be a lot of fun stuff to come. And look for those last 2 rookie signings to come up pretty soon here too.
Yeah. Very excited for those. So we'll be with you guys again next week. We can't thank you guys enough for sticking around and joining us. Make sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe and ring the bell. It is free. Doesn't cost you a thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Make this guy here real happy like it's Christmas Day and we're getting a dub. But again, until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.
Everybody there,